What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Ride Boundless podcast. I just want to shoot out a thank you to all the listeners, followers, and subscribers. If it's your first time, welcome. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. On this episode, we speak to a dear good friend of ours, a fellow rider. He rides a BMW. He's ridden with us many times. He is now a Los Angeles-based lifestyle music and portrait photographer, or at least has been for a while now in LA. We speak about his journey in life. It gets a little emotional and deep, but it was amazing that happened and it took place on the Ride Boundless podcast. Let me bring to you our good friend, Lynwood Robinson. What's going on with your motorcycle? You just
got it back. It was in for recall. They're talking about the gearbox and everything. So just now, 2 minutes ago, popped it into reverse to show off and go, hey, look at this.
Look at my reverse.
And it just stopped. I couldn't get into first gear. So I had to call Jaime, help, Jaime. And
Jaime has that mechanic luck.
Mr. Mechanic.
So you picked it up from the dealership.
This afternoon.
One? Burbank
this afternoon.
And they just did a gear service?
Yeah, so 2 days. So it's been in the shop for 3 days, and they called me up and they said, all right, it's ready to roll.
Holy shit. That's not good.
Yeah, so this is the first time ever.
So let's just say you drop off your bike was working perfectly.
Yes.
There was a recall, and now it doesn't work.
And now it doesn't work.
And there's proof, because we were all riding
it's
2-3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And it was fine. And now that you picked, we got that on the podcast.
And now you can't get into first gear, so we'll see.
Well, now it is in first gear. Let's see if you can get out to second.
Exactly.
Yeah. How are things going, Lynwood?
Man, things are good. I can't complain too much.
How you dealing with all this mess?
Just hanging out with the kids. The kids are doing school. My son's in the 11th grade, trying to figure out what's going to happen for next year.
How is that affecting? I mean, I know the physical school year stopped. Kids are not going to school. But how is the grading? Is there a pass-fail? Is it still ABC, whatever? I'm interested because, I've a small one, and I'm kind of wondering how people are dealing with this current situation.
Well, I have to say, my son goes to a private French school, and they have everything pretty dialed in when it comes to online learning. So that's been pretty good. But again, he'll start class on a Monday from 8:30 till about noon. Has a bunch of tests. Well, not really tests, but a lot of reading to do.
Homework.
Tons of homework. Being in the 11th grade, you're kind of getting a buy-in more or less because he doesn't have to do the SAT right now. So it's kind of freaky because for next year, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then my other son's in the 6th grade and he's loving it because he's like, I only have class for 2 hours. This is great. So.
Absolutely. No, I see the benefit for the kids,
yeah.
But for the adults, it's more difficult. I was reading a post that it says, it was like to the parents, you see now, it wasn't the teacher's fault. It's your kid's fault. Now they're dealing with the kids. But I do you think it's going to stay like this for a while? Or do you think they did this intentionally to kind of implement, schools, online schools?
I think it would be a good thing. There's certain kids work better, I think, at home. Like my son at the beginning of the school year, he was having issues with new kids and trying to fit in, trying to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And now that he's doing the stuff at home, he seems more focused.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can still see his teacher online, see the other kids in class, sort of like a Zoom, right?
Right.
But it's easy. You don't have to really engage with anybody else. You're going to go in, what's the assignment? He gets in, does it, and he's loving it so far.
I mean, I've never been exposed to homeschooling because we don't do this in Spain. Everybody has to go to school. Homeschooling doesn't exist there. But my wife is always telling me that people that get homeschool, they end up getting really good grades when they go to a regular school.
Getting better grades, you say?
Yeah, because they don't have distractions. It's just their parents teaching them everything that is needed, and then just they have a more complete education, I guess, or something. I don't know. I might be making it up.
Well, as long as they're not coming to me for math, because they would definitely not pass
that does happen. I gotta say, I'm more of I like to sit in a classroom. I like to ask questions. I like to physically, hey, hold on, stop. I don't understand. Explain.
Right.
Like I really love that aspect of the educational system. Whereas, online, I know several people that could just sit down, watch, YouTube videos and how to market or how to start a business, and they succeed. But I'm not good that way.
I love being able to sit down and just watch a video. I'm really auditory that way, when it comes to learning.
Watching videos?
Yeah, watching videos, or if I have a question, like for instance, if there's a problem with the bike, I can come out and say, how do you do this? Show me. Got it. And it just sits there for me. But if I'm sitting here looking at a book, I'll read through it and I'm kind of like, I'm not really getting it.
Yeah.
I guess
it depends.
So that's one of the issues.
I guess it depends how good the video is, because I just started getting into master classes. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, right now I'd probably say 40% I'm watching them, 60% I'm listening to them. When I go, on a hike or a walk or in the car, it's much easier. But little by little, it is hooking me and influencing me to watch more videos. But it's still difficult on my experience.
It has to be the right teacher, though.
Everything I know about photography, it's been learned through online.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah. There's nothing. I've never gone to a class. It's all been, most of it just Flarein. I don't know if you know, there's the
Flarein,
channel with RNAs. But most of it through that, and then some other online courses that I've been taking.
There's little things I can look up, and obviously I can go to any computer, go to YouTube, pick something up and learn something quick. But like when it's full courses, I'm not that hooked on it.
Yeah.
But that's just me. How are the kids dealing with it emotionally, being home and not being able?
They need that connection. They want to be with their friends. Like my oldest son is just going crazy because he wants his friends to come out. He wants to be able to go for a run or just hang out. And so everything he's been doing has been, hey, let me play video game or whatever. And he sees his buddy online or whatever. But I think they definitely need to have that connection with people, especially during those ages. Physical, being able to just hang out. And I think they're really missing that.
Yeah. All the contact sports, the contact playing.
Yeah, he plays basketball. So you're sitting there going, okay, well, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, it's cool for 2 weeks, but after that, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
And then I have to bring up your situation, your situation between your new wife and your ex-wife and the kids is unheard of from me. Can we break that down?
So I was married for 17 years. Wonderful lady. We're still best of friends. A few years ago, we bought a second house, which is two doors down. We used it for an Airbnb.
Yeah.
So when we decided to split apart, I didn't want to move somewhere else. So I took over the house 2 doors down. So now I have a girlfriend, and so we're like ex-wife here, girlfriend here, but we're still the best of friends, And I think
your girlfriend has no problem with that.
At first, like anybody, girlfriend, think of it this way. If it was being a guy, if your ex-wife was next door and she started dating somebody else, there's a lot of pressure with that. And how do you go can we make this happen? This is weird. Why is it, why are you guys hanging out? Like today, it was great. My girlfriend and I were over at my ex's house, hanging out in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
that kind of
weird.
thing.
Could you imagine?
But it gets worse though. So you told me.
Yeah.
I want to talk about weird. So last year, my oldest son, who is 27, got married, and I had a son when I was 22 years old. So now we had my baby mama,
right,
my girlfriend, my ex-wife, all at the wedding, all the in-laws, all the family. But it was the strange. It sounds like a movie, but it's the strangest. But
baggage.
But it's baggage, starring Lynwood Robinson as the man.
The man.
But what I find is that for me as a kid, my parents divorced. When they divorced, they hated each other.
Yeah, most people do. That's why they divorced.
They didn't want to hang out with each other. They didn't want to say anything. It was just banging heads together. And I said, if I ever was in a situation where I did get divorced, I need to remember that it's all about the kids. No matter if mom and dad are hating each other, you have to be there for the kids. So we've always had that kind of thing, So
that's amazing. I mean,
I am the
people
luckiest.
People are in courts killing themselves.
I'm blessed, brother. I'm blessed.
My parents decided to play a mind game with us especially with me, because until the moment I left Spain, they hadn't seen each other in about like, I don't know, since they were divorced 16 years, something like that. Now I come to the US, and when I go back, now they're having dinner together for Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like my head is exploding. I don't know how to act. You create two different people, depending on who you are with, and then they're both together in the same room, and you're like, holy shit, what am I doing now? It's crazy.
You don't know how to act.
Yeah, that's great. But again, I'm lucky, man, because a lot of people don't have that.
Well, it's luck, but a lot of it's also you have a balance there, and you have communication, and I'm sure you don't let your ego come over and be like, you can't do this, or I'm moving to another place. Like, you're very chill, so you make it happen.
Yeah, but it takes a while to learn that. The communication thing is something that you have to work on.
Right.
Even within the relationship, I think part of the relationship of any relationship that doesn't work is because you stop communicating somewhere. But now I think my ex and I communicate more now than we did when we were together.
Interesting.
Which is good. You learn.
Yeah, I think relationships is 2-3 things, which is 1, communication, 2, trust. You obviously got to have trust, and 3, bonding. You got to do things that bond the relationship so it lasts more. Go hiking, go work out. But there's some people. Like right now with this whole COVID-19, there's people that, the husband works 40 hours, the wife works 40 hours. They don't even know who they are. They've been married for 10 years, and now they're stuck at home, and there's real big problems going on. People are losing their minds. Domestic violence is up.
Right.
So I think bonding, communication, and trust is something you have to work on and perfect over time.
Right. And you gotta work on your flaws. I mean, I'm a very flawed, scarred, kind of keep, things to my chest kind of thing, I like to put the cards out a whole lot. But that's something you start learning, and you're trying to go, let me open up. Can I trust this person with this situation that I'm going through or dealing with? Because I get sometimes cerebral, I get in and I go, let me think about this half the day, and somebody's asking me something, and I'm like, I can't talk now. I got to figure this out, know? But you want to try to be as truthful as possible too. And sometimes coming out and saying exactly how you feel. Like sometimes a girl will go, "Hey, do you want to go for a running?" No. But whereas before I would go, "Yeah, let's do something." If you don't, especially if you don't really want to go,
right?
Well, so now being able to be honest and say, I really don't feel like doing it, and being okay with that. Because if she decides she didn't want to, ride motorcycles with me, I'd be fine with it. So I don't know. You gotta work on that.
Find another one, and that's it. Right?
Yeah, find another one.
Yeah.
No, anybody that knows me, I say this a lot. The power of no. People respect a no more than a yes. We're always saying people ask for a favor. People ask for help me move. Nobody wants to help anybody move.
Right.
But some people say yes, and it becomes just this shitty situation. Their day starts off shitty. Their morning shitty, their afternoon shitty, their evening shitty. Then you even get into like fighting, and it's like you really need to, if you don't want to do something, especially in a relationship, you really need to communicate and say, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not in it. I've been in a relationship where I know she doesn't want to do anything, but I'll ask her, do you want to do this? And she'll look at me and she doesn't say no. And she'll be like, well, maybe in like 2 hours. And I know in 2 hours, we're not going to go for the ride around the block, you know, but I'm still going to sit down and wait and see. Maybe I'm obviously going to wait around to do I told you weren't going to ride in 2 hours.
Right.
And she's just doing that to, just agree with me or be nice or whatever the case is.
Yeah. Like my father, he's one of these guys. If he doesn't want to do something, he's just like, no, doesn't interest me. And that is the most honest thing you can hear. It hurts sometimes. You're like,
right.
But I would rather have that than somebody go, yeah, and then later on go, that sucked. That was the worst thing ever.
Worst decision.
Yeah, but I don't know. Trying to be more open with that.
Which is how flaking starts, I think.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
And in LA, there's a lot of that. So
it's the number one cause of flaking in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And around the world, period.
Or let me check my schedule and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Instead of just going, or people who make up BS about why they don't want to go.
Right.
It's like, you don't need to tell me why you don't want to go. Just say you don't want to go. We're
That's
cool.
it.
I'll keep
Simple.
it moving.
Yeah, I call them the yeah people. You know, hey, want to do this? Yeah. When? What time? Let me see. Yeah, I should be able to do it. Don't worry, I'll be able to do it. And then they flake. I have a good friend of mine. Well, old good friend of mine. I guess he wasn't that good of a friend. He's a good person, but he was the most flakiest person in the world, and that's why we couldn't have a friendship. He was a stylist. He cut women's hair.
Right.
And he's fucking good. Like, one day he came over to my place. He was smoking. He got in an accident. He ran off from the accident because he didn't have insurance. He was drinking. He showed up to my house. I was like, what are you doing, man? Smoked some weed, was messed up. And then a friend of mine came over with his girlfriend. And he's like, I cut your hair. And this guy was just in the worst condition ever, cutting hair, but he's so good. He did an amazing job.
Right.
So women chase him, follow him, call him, blow him up his phone, social media. And he says, yeah, tomorrow, 4:00, no problem. Here. And they'll text him in the morning. Yeah. I'll see you. I'm on my way. 3:00, 3:30. He's responding. Even 2 minutes, of the time.
Right.
Yes, no problem. I'm almost there.
Right.
4:00, shuts off his phone, disappears, and these people are paying him $150, $200. Like, this happened all the time. I mean, he can't even keep a fucking job because of it.
Yeah.
But the flakiest person I've ever met.
Yeah. See, I've got this time thing where if I say, hey, look, I'm going to be somewhere at 6:00, I'm usually there 22:06. I'm always early. I'm like never ever late. It's one of those things where my parents kind of go, dude, get there on time. It's disrespectful, whatever. Now, if somebody sees that I'm 5 minutes late, it's because something seriously happened. It's like there's a quality to it, being on time, respecting your time, respecting my time, and if you can do that, your life is fabulous.
You did you see The Irishman?
Yes. Yeah.
You're late. When the guy shows up late, the guy from Miami.
Right.
Because I'm not late. Traffic. He goes, it says something. He's like, I'm not trying to say anything. No, it says something.
Yeah,
you're late. 15 minutes.
Yeah.
12 minutes. No, it says something.
Right. It definitely does.
I've noticed also talking about time and people being late. I've noticed most Latinos and Hispanics and foreigners that come into the United States are late to everything. They're late to work. They're late.
It's a tradition. I mean, it is. I definitely try and break it because I try and break every stereotype from a Spanish person. But it is in our culture to be actually, if you have a party,
you have to be late.
If you have a party and you don't show up 15 minutes late, at least you're being disrespectful because maybe they're not really ready yet to have you
showed
there.
up too early, whatever the case is.
So at least if there's a party that starts at 6, you have to be there at 6:15, as early as That's the minimum you can be there.
Oh, I stress out about being late. Like it just freaks me out. Like if I'm going to the airport,
I'm at that point. I understand.
2 hours early, I'm chilling. I'm in the back of an Uber or whatever, and then I get to the airport and I can do whatever I want. But when you start pushing it, you go, oh, well, I've got an hour. I got 15 more minutes. It just stresses me out.
Yeah, my issue is I take on too many projects at once, and my scheduling's not exact. But other than that, I'm always on time. I'm always where I gotta be.
Right.
And I lose my mind because, like I said, I deal with a lot of foreigners, and it's not just the Hispanics and the Latinos. It's Egyptians are mean. I've seen Italians, please. They don't show up to a funeral on time.
Right.
And it stresses me out. It really stresses me out. Even when I put money on a meter, like for the car, dude, I got 3 fucking watches. Siri, please remind me in 45 minutes, put another quote, whatever the case is. Cause I know that parking in LA, the parking enforcement's so fucking bad.
Oh, they get you. I went to a friend of mine's, a little gathering he had about 2 months ago. And he lives just off of Melrose.
Oh, shit.
And I park, and they've got a sign that's got 20 different things on it. I'm hanging out for about 20 minutes, and I go, oh, shoot. My buddy's like, did you park in front of the house? He goes, yeah, move it to the other side.
Run.
I got to my car, $75 ticket because it hit 6 p.m. and you need to have a little flyer or something. I'm like, $75? I'm like, I'm drinking a lot over here tonight.
Yeah, I had an office on Sunset Boulevard, and that was the battle. Every time I had guests come over, you could only put an hour,
right?
And meetings would be longer than an hour, and it was unbelievable how many tickets they give out. Like we couldn't get even 5 minutes. You miss it by 5 minutes, parking ticket.
Or when 3 o'clock, Or sometimes they can tow your car or whatever.
Depending on the city. San Francisco's fucking crazy. You said 5 signs or 10 signs? San Francisco's got like 30 signs on a street.
And the result is always that you can't park there.
And it's
Have you noticed?
Yeah.
And San Francisco clears you out. What they'll do is, they'll be, the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then watch out for Tuesdays and Fridays,
Right.
and then between 12 and 3, and then PMs, and this, that. When it hits, I've seen 10 tow trucks come in and take 10 cars.
And they make a killing when you go to get your vehicle back.
$350. Actually, as a matter of fact, the Sunset one, I had a buddy of mine, he visited, he was from Argentina. He came over, rented a car. I told him, hey, come by the spot. We went to Cabo Cantina. This is back in the days, which it's still there. And we had a few drinks. We're done. We're leaving. We have a quick smoke. Walk down the hill. We were on Switzer.
Okay.
And when we get to the bottom, there's a tow truck towing a car across from our car, from his car.
Right.
And I tell the tow truck guy, I go, hey, man, don't tow my car. Don't tow my car. And the guy is like, too late. I'm like, just kidding, like it's not my car. And when we look behind the tow truck,
Right.
His car was already gone. They had towed it. Now I'm telling this guy like, oh, bro, where do you guys tow cars? Because they towed ours. They're fucking evil. It's pretty bad.
It's the biggest scam ever.
It is the biggest scam. I wonder how that happened. Say it. I want to hear. Yeah, please. I really want to know how the fuck that happened. Like, where do they have the right to just ticket any car that's parked, to tow any car? What's the difference from that and stealing?
And then they sit there and they mark you, put a little chalk mark on your car or whatever. And half the time
they do that shit right here on my street.
Yeah.
Randomly.
I'm surprised my bike's still out there. Oh, wait a minute. Because you live over here, do you ever have that issue where they do the red flag warnings?
No, I used to live on Woodrow Wilson. That's the next one up.
Right.
On Woodrow Wilson, they'll do the red flag warning.
They'll tow your stuff.
You can't even park your fucking car in front of your own house. So red flag warning or whatever it's called is basically they think that the mountains are too dry and the leaves are too dry, so there's a fire endangerment. And because the streets are so small through the hills, the fire trucks need to like go and inspect. Mm-hmm. But it's not one day. They'll do a red flag warning. Till
for a month in summer.
Till we say it's off, and you have to subscribe to the text.
Yep.
And you get it, and you're just waiting, and you have nowhere to park now. Now you have to park. I was one time I had to take an Uber each time, or just fucking hike it.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's very interesting. What bikes are you riding right now? You came in the BMW and the gearbox got fucked up, but which BMW is that?
It is the BMW Bagger 2018. Love it. It
looks beautiful
bike. So comfortable.
Somebody described it the Cadillac of bikes. Somebody described it a Harley mixed with a BMW. How do you describe it?
It's the R1600, right?
Yeah, R1600. It's like a limousine, man.
Yeah, a limousine.
You're flowing. It's just smooth, fast. I went to Mexico with some friends of ours probably last year, about 7 months ago.
What part of Mexico?
We went to San Felipe and Ensenada.
Beautiful.
Man, there was a spot where you can actually open up. You don't see anybody around. Mountains left to right of you. I opened it up to 130 and it was still had room to go. It freaked me out. That's how fast it was and smooth.
That's amazing.
Beautiful bike.
What are some of the features on that bike? I haven't played with it. Like our keys, our 1250s and your key is the same,
right?
But our middle button doesn't do anything. Yours locks the bags, right?
Yeah, it locks the bags.
Ours is just for show.
And then you can put it close to the tank, and the tank thing opens up.
We got that.
Yeah, okay.
We got that,
which is great. And then of course you have the GPS, auto lock, reverse,
full LCD screen,
full color. LCD, beautiful.
For reverse, that was cool. I was excited about that.
Oh yeah. Well, the first time I was in San Francisco. I really needed that reverse, boy, because the bike's 800 pounds. You throw some stuff in there, and you have hills like this. Yeah, it's comes in handy.
Yeah, I bet. I've never ridden a bike with a reverse. Have you?
No,
Iman?
No, I don't think so.
Never tried it out. I mean, worst comes to worst, I have to get off the bike and I got to move it, manually. But I could imagine it's a great feature.
But those hills in San Francisco, so you tilt it to the side, you're like. You're screwed.
I used to live on Monterey Street in the back of San Francisco. I know it was one of my favorite cities to ride a motorcycle in. I really enjoyed it. Once you master.
What did you like about it though?
Everything. I like the sound of the Harley pipes through the city. I liked all the tunnels. I liked the hills. I got used to stopping at a red light on a hill, just 90-degree angle of like, oh, what am I doing?
So do you have that little so on
The hill brake.
Yeah, the hill brake.
The hill brake's amazing.
Love it.
I got it. It's funny because when I bought the Street Glide, I picked out one that had the option, but I didn't know of the option. And it was like $900 more. So it was that and some traction control, which they didn't tell me was a traction control. I was like, why is this one $975 more than this one? They're like, no, it has an extra brake feature. Right. And that's all they told me. I get the BMW and it's got traction control, it's got the ABS, it's got everything, and then it's got the hill stop. And Jaime told me about the hill stop, and I was like, this shit's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And then I found that I could have had it for the Harley, but unfortunately, Bartels didn't explain that well to me.
So does your bike, if you grab the front brake, the back brake works also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's combined.
It's combined, and it adjusts as to where the braking needs to go to if you grab the front brake.
It's perfect.
Wow, and that was 2018.
Yeah.
Did the 1200 2018 have that?
I don't think so.
No.
Maybe. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Before that, I had the Harley V-Rod.
I was going to ask.
Which was good. It was a 2009. I custom it all out.
Night Rod or
the Night Rod?
Night Rod Special?
Yeah. So
Nice.
did all the rolling sand stuff on there, and then
Yeah.
Do you know Scratch? He's a painter. He does all kinds of stuff for Bell helmets and all this stuff. Amazing.
No, where's he out of?
He's out of LA. He used to be in Burbank. He's downtown Los Angeles, and now he's moving to. I think he's moving to Texas in the summertime.
Oh, that's interesting.
But he
We're
did
gonna have to hook him up
did
with
my whole
Jace.
bike. He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's amazing.
And then for the listeners, who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do? Now that we're this deep into the conversation.
This deep. Okay, my name is Lynwood Robinson. I'm a sports, music, and lifestyle photographer. Originally from Canada. I live here in Los Angeles, California. And my journey is interesting.
Let's dive into that.
Well,
You want to start off in Canada, or how long you were there for?
yeah, well, let's start off in Canada. So I'm 50 years old, so
I know. Can you
life
believe
doesn't
that?
crack
Doesn't
too
do
much,
that,
trying to keep it
Flag or money? Money don't crack.
Money don't crack either. Yeah, originally from Canada. I used to be a 400-meter athlete, so I ran 2 and 4 in Canada. How did I get into that? As a kid, like any other, and like anybody else, you want to be an Olympian. You want to sit here and be a 100 and 200 guy like Carl Lewis or Ben Johnson. And I realized at 10, 12 years old that I was pretty fast. So competed everywhere and ended up being.
And when you say everywhere, where we're like,
So we're talking. So you first you start off high school, then you
Right.
do private clubs, and then you end up getting good enough to travel around Canada, the U.S., New York.
That's exciting.
Pocatello, Idaho, all these little spots. So I had the opportunity to travel like everywhere. So you go across Canada, Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton. There's a whole bunch of indoor, because it's cold and it's winter 90% of the time. You have an outdoor season and an indoor season.
Right.
So doing all these big competitions, you start getting better, faster, stronger. And I had the opportunity to go to Tennessee, where my grandfather is originally from, and go train out there. So I was probably about maybe 12, 13 years old. When I was 10 or 12 years old, my parents divorced.
Right.
And there was a very hard time where my dad did not like my mom didn't like my dad, and things kind of fell apart. So you try to find this thing to go, what will make me happy?
Right. What's going to fulfill you?
What's going to fulfill me? I had a younger brother at the time. He was 3 years younger than I was.
Big age gap.
Big age gap. And it was like 1979. And so the only thing that made me happy, or where I can find a piece of myself, was running. So my dad, never really saw me run. My mom wasn't interested in seeing me run, but my coaches and the friends that I met on the track, that's what I wanted. And that's what I needed, because I needed to find something that just made me happy,
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I became a faster runner, which is weird to say, but my mom got to a point in her life where because she was divorced and not knowing where she wanted to be, she started drinking a lot and smoking a lot. So when I was a kid, she used to go, hey, Lynwood, it could be 11 o'clock at night. I'm young. I'm 10, 11 years old. Well, actually 11, 12 years old. And she'll say, hey, run to the store and get me cigarettes. It's like 11 o'clock at night. It's a mile away. So I start doing this. And it became 3, 4 times a week. I'm doing this. Meanwhile,
were you timing yourself at any point? Or it was an errand you were doing it?
It's an errand, but then you start going, oh, shoot, it's wintertime now. And I want to get there and get back.
How far?
It's a mile.
It's a mile.
But,
so a mile there, mile back.
A mile there, mile
it's
back.
2 miles.
She wrote a note and said, hey, go do this. So I kept doing that. And that weird little thing in me says, hey, man, I'm getting faster. I'm doing this. So now I start to become who Lynwood is. It's like you get a little arrogant. You go, hey, man, I can beat anybody. Right? You start building up this confidence, but most of it was because you wanted to get away from being at home.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So within that, I found dance, which was, my mom.
How was that transition that you started running? You were becoming a really good runner, and then you found dance.
And at what age?
I started dance around the same age, because you start seeing breaking and beat street and all these things, and I'm like, you know what? Oh, this is dope. So I start practicing how to be a b-boy, and I found that, and I'm going, hey, I'm good at this. So now you go, here's running season, here's track season, here's dance season. Oh, you know what? Let me see what I can do. So in those years, you're talking Michael Jackson, all that. I start learning to imitate, learning to perform. And so as that became something that I can get in and out of and get me that attention that I was hungry for, the friendship that I was needing, that was where my life and journey began. It's like anything I can do to get away from this craziness that's going on at home, I'll do it.
Anything to keep your mind busy,
anything to keep my mind busy,
and anything to stay out of home.
So was your father around in that area, or because you talked about your mom? But
my stepfather, we had the same. So my younger brother had the same mother but different father.
Right.
So he was around, but I got to see him every 2 weeks. Every other week on the weekends, and he was one of these. He was an amazing guy. He's pretty tough, but he's an amazing guy. He was a welder. He had one of the biggest trade schools in Canada. So in Edmonton, Canada is kind of where the oil fields are. So you have people from all around the world coming here to work on the oil fields. And he had one of the biggest trade schools there to teach people how to do it, how to write these exams to get into this. And so he was kind of a big shot back in those days, and still is to this day. But he was around, but he was really one of those, hey, I'm working 90-hour weeks. You're going to come in, you're going to do your homework, and
don't bother me.
Yeah, don't bother me. He was really tough. And then you go, well, how do I go from being with my mom, who's lax but isn't really paying attention to me, to go to hanging with my dad,
and
who's
being
really
a soldier,
hardcore, and being a soldier? I'm getting messed up here. So
that's two complete opposites.
And this is something you realize when you're 11 or 12.
Yeah, that the only thing I knew, and through therapy and kind of becoming an older person, you kind of figure out what I was really wanting or needing.
Right.
So what happens now is 86 is where the World Junior National Championships are in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. And I'm probably now 15, I guess. There's some trials. We go to Sudbury, and you usually get there about 3 or 4 days before the race and hang out. So I get there, and you got people from all around the world coming to this championships. I hear that there's a b-boy competition in this town.
Right.
And I'm like,
I'm there.
Well, let me go and see if I can get in on this. So I get over there, and we're talking little towns. Let's go to like being in Kansas or something, Sudbury would be. And I get in this competition, I make $500. So when I'm supposed to be training with everybody else, I'm going to get that paper.
Right.
Right.
You found a way to make money.
I found a way. So get this, I win this competition, make $500 to get this little newspaper and little interviews and all that. I go to the big track meet and I can't get out of the second heat. And that's when I started to realize, I go, I'm talented and I don't work hard enough. Maybe this isn't for me.
That's an interesting thought that you had for yourself at that age and at that time.
Right.
What'd you do?
So what I did was I go, you know what? I'm going to do it as a hobby. So I had a coach named David Lee Pong, who's a half Chinese, half Trinidadian. So you see a Chinese guy with a Trinidadian Jamaican accent, one of the fastest, smartest coaches that I've ever met. He said, Lynwood, will you still come out, hang out,
What
do
a
your thing?
mix.
I know.
What a mix.
But to this day, he's still kind of a mentor to me, you know? And so I trained. I became 16, 17, 18. By the time I reached, I would say 18, 19, I was living in Vancouver, Canada. And there was Expo 86, which was, I don't know if you guys have that. It's like a world fair.
Yeah.
I ended up getting lucky enough to meet the right clique of dancers, and we ended up opening up for Rocksteady Crew. Some of those guys were all there at Expo 86. We started performing. I started making money and connections
And touring.
and dancing. You know, we're like, oh, this is cool. We do a little Canadian tour, do a little bit, you know, Seattle, Portland, all that stuff. And you're going, wow, I'm kind of getting a little bit of a career here. This is interesting. I go to college, go to Simon Fraser University, studying kinesiology. Things are going well. Vancouver, there's only, you know, being an African American, there might be 20 guys in Vancouver that do that stuff, you know. So we've got guys that are dancers, actors, and you kind of become, I've been lucky enough to meet enough people to say, hey, Lynn was the guy, you need somebody that can choreograph X, Y, and Z? Oh yeah, do him. So I met a guy named, Alan Olette, who was a local director. He did a lot of music videos, and in Canada, you have these grants that you can get called factor grants. So basically you can go, hey, you know what? The Ride podcast, you want to sit here and you go, I want to have a TV show. So you write a little grant and they'll give to the arts and say, hey, you know what? If it's a good enough idea, they'll go out and
fund it
and do that.
That's awesome.
I started making, relationships with Alan, and I basically became his go-to guy for anything that happens in Vancouver, Edmonton, little commercials. So doing this, I ended up being able to direct a commercial for the Brick Warehouse, which is like a big furniture store, like Canada's IKEA, I guess you would say.
Right.
and
it's all made in Canada.
And it's all made in Canada.
Just to know.
And so I got to direct one of those. And then I got, to do something for sports. What's it called? Not US, we have Sports Chalet. In Canada, we have Sport Check. So I did a commercial for them, had some guys running, and they're like, hey, we want somebody to teach this person how to run and make it look like they know what they're doing. I'm still a young kid, and I'm like, 20.
Right. You're a kid.
Kid. Got that opportunity, and
Getting paid paper.
Paper for a 20-year-old kid, you're like, it's
you don't
nice.
got that many bills. You
No,
don't got the wife. You don't got the kids. You don't got a house. You don't got a car. You don't have a,
Exactly. You didn't have that. So I moved back to Edmonton, Canada to see my dad, hang out with him for a bit. And we started talking. He's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to sit here and, he's hardcore, kind of said, do you want to be a bum? Do you want to be, what are you planning on doing with the rest of your life?
Yeah, dancing's not a real job or something.
Not a real job. You're not going to be able to do anything with it.
That's what I imagine he would say. I don't think he would be supportive of that.
No, but he was like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. So one day I'm walking down the street in Edmonton and I see this sign, this little poster on the wall that says, Christian hip hop group DC Talk in town performing tonight. I'm like, Christian hip hop group? What's this about?
Dancing.
I'm like, huh. have a little, not being sounding, I'm not trying to come off as cocky or anything like that, but when you kind of get the accolades and people coming out and saying, you can do this, you can do that, you're great, why don't you try it? So I happened to go by the Jubilee Auditorium. I knew some security guys that were there. I walked in and I started talking to the manager of this band. And we struck up a great conversation. And there's Toby, Michael, and Kevin. And we start chatting. And they come out and go, hey, I told them I'm a dancer. I kind of do this. They said, hey, would you be up to dancing and performing on a show tonight? I'm like, sure. And I go, so how do we want to do this? He goes, just come up with one of the songs, any couple of the songs, and just come up and do your thing. Improvise.
Jesus.
So I'm like, all right.
I can do this. I've been doing this.
A big part of my life. A big part of my life. I go out and do it. First night. Love it. They're like, why don't you come finish the rest of our Canadian tour? Oof. Like that. I've been lucky enough to see opportunities and kind of take it, right?
Well, again, and then we talked about this before the podcast. Most of this is because you showed up, you got there,
right?
This is where you then, after you did the tour, how you got to Tennessee, right?
Exactly. So I do part of the Canadian tour. The last part of their tour, I think it was like seven dates or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is 1990, 89, 90.
Right.
And they said, okay, well, hey, look, we're going back to Nashville. Let's talk. We'll talk in a month. And now, there's no cell phones or anything like that going on. I get a call a month later and they're like, all right, well, we're getting ready to go on tour. So how about you move to Nashville? Come join us and move to Nashville. I'm like, all right.
Did they pay for your move, or was this something you had to save up and do yourself?
I was 20 years old. Here's the flight.
They gave you the flight.
Here's the flight. Yep. Show up.
Here's a job.
Here's a job.
Come to America.
I ended up living with who did I stay with? I stayed with Kevin, and then Michael Tate for a while, and now this is 1990. So I stayed with him for a few years. Did amazing. We traveled everywhere. Got to see everything that you can imagine. I had an opportunity to see. So now when I was a kid, I kind of told you, I liked having that attention and feeling like I was part of something. But I was faking a lot of it because I was really insecure. Because I'm going, I don't know if they really think I'm that good, or am I good enough?
Because they didn't confirm it, or
no?
They bought you a ticket, they offered you the job, but something inside, it was just.
Being part of it was the confirmation, right? That's what.
Right.
Yeah.
But what made you think? What made you think? That they weren't as satisfied as you thought they should have been satisfied. Just to understand,
they were satisfied. My problem was the internal hatred I had for myself from when my mom was becoming an alcoholic, more or less. Every day I came home, it was like, you're stupid. You're an idiot.
Right.
You're never going to be anything. So those little things sit in your head, right? So when I'm on tour with these guys, I'm feeling everything. I'm confident. I feel like I can control anything and travel. So we went and traveled, did all these great shows, but where I felt lost was on the second tour. We're prepping for a world tour. We wanted to get some more dancers in. Now, I choreograph a lot. I was choreographing a fair amount of stuff, and I was always good at teaching somebody how to do something. I've never put the work in like all the other dancers that had to learn somebody else's choreography.
Right. You were kind of spoiled and skillful.
Spoiled and skillful is a perfect word.
Yeah.
So we're prepping for this world tour. They brought in Fatima Robinson. So she's an amazing choreographer. She did all the New Kids on the Block stuff. You name it, she did it. She came to teach us combinations to get ready for this tour. First weekend, not bad. I'm picking up everything. This is great. The beginning of the second week, we try to learn this new routine, and I couldn't get it. And internally, I was freaking out. I'm going, I'm a fraud. They're going to find out I suck. And I don't know what to do. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay, man. It's difficult.
So what happens is I get so scared that that I'm going to be a failure. So the guys are all joking around with me. We're doing this stuff. They're like, "Oh, you can't get this." And I know they're just busting me. It was no big deal. But
which is very normal that guys do all
very
the
normal.
time.
That's-
Yeah,
that's
bust each other's chops.
This is the way I communicate with people constantly. I always tell them that I bully them into friendship.
Right.
You know, so
bullying
it's normal
people.
between friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm used to that. But there was one little trigger that hit me that said, "You're going to get busted because you're fake.
Right.
You're not as good as everybody
But you
else."
were not. You were really good.
But
you
I
just
wasn't.
didn't
I
put
was
the work
really
in.
good. I didn't put the work in.
Right. There was a vulnerable spot that they were pushing on because
Right.
you weren't practicing and you couldn't nail down what you were trying to do.
Right. So when you come from more or less a freestyle dance background, where you can kind of go, "Hey, I know these moves that I can do and put them all together, and it's not a problem." It's when you know other dancers who spent their lifetime going to classes all the time, jazz, ballet, all this. That wasn't my background.
Right. There's some things that you can't teach certain people, and there's certain things that are just people are natural at doing. And you were a natural performer and dancer.
Exactly.
But you had this vulnerable spot that if you did have to learn a certain thing a certain way, you weren't disciplined enough
Right.
to do the training and put the time in. And now this created a vulnerable spot that you were being exposed, and now you're fucking you're sweating.
I'm sweating.
You're tripping.
It's like a soldier who
Right.
goes to fight somebody and they go, "I see something's wrong with his right arm. Let's attack there." and
Right.
It's done. So one day I'm trying to get this one simple 8 count, and I couldn't do it. And at the end of the day, the guys are going, "Oh, come on, man, you can get it." I go, "You know what? I'm out. I quit. I can't do it." And they're like, "Nah, you joking around. I'll see you in the morning."
Right. But you were serious.
I get back to the spot and I go, "I'm really out." I told the other dancers, I called the plane up, packed my stuff,
And you headed out?
and I left.
That's fucking crazy. To where? To what?
I went
You
back.
ran away.
I ran away. That's exactly what I did. I ran away and I went back to Canada. Went back to Edmonton. Went to
Mom's house, dad's house,
my stepfather's house.
stepfather's
Yeah.
house.
And I put my dance shoes away, which is weird because I get home. This is the thing that really bothered me. I've never quit anything, again after that moment.
Right. But you were always so talented, you didn't need to.
Exactly. But what hurt me the most was I had everything. Everything that you could ever imagine was right there. So when I
why'd you move out? I mean, I understand why you quit, but it was all a package, and you had to it was like
Well,
all or nothing.
he was there for the job, right?
I was there. No, but
Right, but he had friends. I'm sure he had a girlfriend. He had, you've been there how long now?
yeah, a couple of years.
You see?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just left. You dropped all of it.
Well, when I say a couple of years, it's when you do a tour, it's sort of like,
Right.
we're here for 6 months and then we leave again. And then we're here for 4 months and then we leave again. And we go for 3 months. So that's why I say a couple of years. So every
Got
time
it.
that I had a break, I just went back to Canada.
Got it. That makes
Because I
sense.
didn't, that was easy. But the thing that hurt the most was I got home. The morning I got home, I was at my dad's house. I went down to the basement and I put the music on and I had to move.
You had
I
it.
had to move. I talked myself out of the best experience of my entire life, but because I was egotistical
I was gonna say that's ego. You're
My
talking
ego
all
was
ego.
so wrapped up in who I was. I mean, I kind of had to fake what I did because that's the only thing that made me happy.
I mean, today's world, it's fake it till you make it. So you're doing the right thing.
Right. But now, like this is no lie. I get a call from Michael and Toby and those guys. They're like, why did you leave? Come back. I was afraid and I couldn't allow myself to do it.
To go back.
Because
That's ego.
I was ashamed.
Were you ashamed or were you being stubborn? Like, I made this stupid decision and now I'm so prideful. I'm going to fucking stick to it.
Yeah.
Because prideful is ego just as well, but we'll just use the word prideful.
Prideful, but also the reason why I say shame, because now all my friends
Well,
that
if
I
you
knew.
go back, it'd be shameful.
Yeah,
And by
I guess.
being prideful, you don't need to do the walk of shame.
Right, exactly.
But you really let go something you loved.
Yeah. That I love.
Guys, don't let your ego get to you.
No,
Drop that shit, please.
You got to drop it. So now the thing that's weird is I get back to Canada. I'm used to having, a lifestyle. If you're just kind of going out, you don't have to work hard. You just, hey, I work 2 hours a day. I might rehearse for an hour, go to a show, travel to the next spot. So now I'm back in Canada, and I have nothing. Zero. I have friends going, dude, hey, I saw you on whatever. And what's going on with you? Nothing. So now I meet a girl named Carmen who we end up having a child together, which is my 27-year-old now. And she knew I was on tour. I was new, because we kept in touch kind of every time I was in town. We hung out and whatever, and then we became, a couple when I finally moved back to Canada. But I had no direction. I didn't know what to do. The jobs that did come up were silly things. I had guys that call me up from Chippendales and go, "Hey, can you choreograph some routine stuff for us?"
Oh, fuck.
How much is it? All right,
Yeah.
I'll do it. Oh, it's $200, $300, whatever. Yeah, I'll do it. And there was a point where I had zero money because I spent it all on shoes and jackets and whatever, that I had to take a job at like Banana Republic and that was horrible for me.
Yeah, that was a big step backwards in your life and your success at to that point.
Yeah,
you're going backwards,
and it was,
and now you're
easy.
older,
and I'm older. I'm like 20. I had my son at 22, so now I'm 22. His mom's 30. She's got a career. I'm sitting here going, "You're a loser."
What does he do?
So she was a dental assistant, but at one point in time she was a dental assistant. In Canada, there's when you're a model in Canada, like you're not working all the time. So she was a model, but she was also a dental assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
she was busy. She was heading places.
She was busy. She was heading places.
Doors were opening. Opportunities were coming.
Opportunities were everywhere. And I felt like, you're the biggest loser. What are you going to do? You just had a kid. You're 22 and you don't know what you're going to do. So now all I know is, hey, look, I used to be a runner. I can get anybody fast. I had a background in kinesiology. I start meeting more people. I go, okay, well, David Lee Pong hooked me up with some guys that were over at the Edmonton Eskimos, which is the Canadian Football League. So I worked with a couple of those guys on some speed development stuff. And that's kind of how I made a little bit of money. Then there's a guy named Thomas Alexander. He was a soul singer. He's from Chicago, lived in Edmonton. His wife was from Edmonton. He was going on tour in Tokyo and we started meeting and he's like, "Hey, do you think you can choreograph something for me? I want some dancers. I want some soul guys. And, we have some females that want to go on this tour or whatever." I worked with him. We became very good friends and he gave me a great opportunity. He goes to Japan. He's there for 6 or 7 months. I'm still in Edmonton, stuck. And this is now my son is 2. And
Time flies, huh? When you have children, you see them grow, and like we can look at each other for the next 5 years. We'll see 1 or 2 more gray hairs. You have a child, and now they're talking to you and communicating. But continue. He's 2 years old. He's walking.
He's 2 years old, walking. His name's Tiz. He's an amazing kid, and I'm still in a spot where I'm like, I'm not working much at all. Thomas comes back. And my son, like I said, my son's 2. Thomas comes back in town and he goes, "Hey, Lynwood, I'm about to start this musical in Calgary. It's called Mo Magic. It's a Motown review thing. They're looking for somebody who's talented like you, who can sing, who can dance. And dude, you should come audition. I put in a word for you. You should do that." So I talked to Carmen, which is, my son's mother. And I said, "Do you think I should go do this?" She said, "You know what? That's the only thing that makes you happy." So,
because everything else you've been doing hasn't.
Yeah. So she says, "Go try." I go out there. They're like, "Okay, hey, Lynwood." There's the next day. I go out there. The guy goes, "Sing something." So I sing a Marvin Gaye song. And
is this the first time you've sang for somebody?
First time I sang a lot. So when I was really young, my grandfather had a bar and club in Detroit, and I used to go hang out there, sing Michael Jackson songs and all this when I was younger. And it was easy. It was good. It's something that I used to do, and I've always been.
You got called onto stage and performed in the little skits and stuff.
So I wasn't afraid of that. It was always being an entertainer kind of thing.
Right.
So Thomas calls me up and he said, "Why don't you go do this?" I go to the audition. I sing a song, and the first thing I tell the director is, "Hey, I'm not really a singer, but here's a song I'll do." I sang the song,
Marvin
Gaye, and everybody leaves the room. I'm sitting in the hallway for a little bit, and he comes back in, and he looks at me and he goes, "Here's the thing. I don't want you to ever say you can't do something and you're not this and you're not something." And he goes, "If you want the job, it's yours." So I got this job from Mo Magic. We spent 4 months in Calgary, 6 months in Toronto, another 6 months in Vancouver. And that's kind of how my life went. But what's interesting, I missed the spot. When I got the gig, I call up Carmen. I said, "Hey, I got the gig. It's amazing. We start rehearsals Monday." She tells me, "That's good, but you're going to have to do it by yourself." So we broke up.
She ended it.
She ended it.
Why do you think that is? Did she ever tell you the why?
Oh, I was the why, most definitely, because she can see that my desire to be elsewhere was stronger than being at home.
I mean, I get that, but there's so many men that want to be somewhere else, and the woman's holding them down like, "No, motherfucker."
Yeah, but
especially once they get the career, or they get, they stuck around that long, and they're like, "Oh, okay, you made it, but all right, now it's my time."
But here's the thing that this is straight honesty, and I didn't see it until like I got older, is she needed somebody that could be there for her, to emotionally, physically, and she knew I wasn't that, and she loved me. We're great friends, but she did it because she knew both of us needed something different.
Right.
And I was 22. She's
and
30.
You guys got,
and she's 30.
Well, at this point, your child was 2 years old.
Was 2 years old.
And you had him at 20, so 24?
Yeah, so 24.
23, 24 around there?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and she was older. She had more experience, and she knows what she wants.
Yeah, and she was married before and all this. So it's sort of like, hey, look it. I mean, it was hard. And I sat here, and she knew how hard it was when I quit. She thought it was the weirdest thing ever. So I did Mo Magic, did all that. And then
for how long did you do that?
I guess it was like a year and a half. You know,
And that was all in Canada?
Yeah. So Vancouver, Toronto. I think we did Vancouver, Toronto, Calgary. So after that, I was sitting here saying, okay, well, now I really have no place to go. What should I do next? So I thought, well, I can either move to New York or I can move to Los Angeles. And I said, well, I'm tired of the cold. I moved to Los Angeles.
Had you been to California before?
I've been to California. I went to UCLA also, and studied a bit.
You're up and all over.
I've been around,
Mr. Worldwide.
So one of the things is like you go, oh, LA, this is, this is kind of where you need to be.
So you came out here.
Any
contacts or anybody you knew at the time?
So how the story went is we finished the last bit of our show. That was in Toronto. I ended up buying a car. I drove to Vancouver because another friend of mine had two girls that I knew that were amazing dancers, and we kept in touch. And they said they were planning on moving to LA. I said, "Hey, I'm moving to Los Angeles. Why don't we all get a spot in LA?" So we did a road trip and drove from Toronto, Vancouver to Los Angeles. I had a roommate with two other dancers, but one thing I said to myself is I knew that I didn't want to be a dancer anymore. You know what I mean? I didn't mind going out and doing musicals and doing this other stuff, but I didn't want to dance because I knew Los Angeles, hey, I can be a big fish in Canada. I knew my wheelhouse.
Right.
So I get to LA. It's been about 6 months. I meet this girl who lives in the building, and she's an actress, and we started talking, and I started, running and doing this stuff. And we started talking about, being an athlete and in my background and all that. She goes, I have a friend of mine that's working on a movie, and he needs somebody to train him to teach him how to run. It was for the, what was the name of that? Prefontaine movie. They did two of them at the same time.
What year are we talking about?
This was now 95?
Okay.
1995, 96, somewhere around there. So anyway, he's like, I have a guy he needs to learn how to run for this film. Do you think you can help him out? So one thing I've always said is like, well, yeah, of course I can do it. Have you worked with the celebrities and all this? Of course I did. I never worked with any celebrity at the time, but I knew I can get this guy to do what he needs to do.
But you did work with the football team and stuff.
Yeah, football teams. But they're talking about at the time they were like, "Oh, have you worked with actors?" Because they were, Paramount Pictures and all these other studios were like, "Well, we need somebody who's worked with blah, blah,
experienced."
Blah.
And
exactly.
They're not going to flip out when they see an artist or whatever the case is.
Exactly. So anyway, this guy linked me up. We did the gig. I made some money. It was awesome. Then this girl says, "Hey, you know what? My friend runs Paramount Pictures training facility. You should go meet the guys over there." I'm like, all right.
Sounds good to me.
Meet the guys there. And I started working with their talent. I did that from 95, 96 through 99, 98, 99. So by that time, I ended up meeting everybody in the industry, actors, producers, all of this. I mentioned to them, some of these guys. One of my mentors, his name was Paul Hager. He was the president of post-production for Paramount Pictures. He was kind of my mentor, and I showed him a couple music videos that I directed and commercials that I directed. And he's like, "Hey, Lynwood, if you want to be a good director, what you need to do is learn editing. So you're going to quit tomorrow, and I'm going to get you a job as an apprentice editor, and that's what you're going to do."
Nice.
He got me into the first month or two I worked in film shipping. Then I worked on a couple movies. So the first movie I ended up working on was Down to Earth with Chris Rock. So the Whites brothers who did American Pie and all those guys, they used to come to the gym all the time. We talked and this and that. I ended up working on their movie. And that's when a new chapter in my life kind of came together. So I got into post-production for a few years, kind of dug that. And then I realized, you know what? I miss being active and seeing people all the time. So I decided to call a few people that I knew, Tony Shalhoub and a couple other actors, and I started training these guys again. So I worked with Tom Church on a couple movies. I worked with a couple boxers, and I was a strength and conditioning coach. Now, some of my friends that were track athletes and mentors today still work with Olympic athletes. Because of my background, I get to work with some bobsledders and sprinters, anything that had to do with sprinting.
What a
and learning to
wild
get strength.
spread. That's amazing. That's a great opportunity. And that's how you look the way you look at 50.
And that's it. So when I look,
and you love what you're doing.
I love what I'm doing. But the thing that's interesting is that just like with photography, your foreground can be your background depending on where you focus.
Right.
Everything that I've did led me back to where I am today. So learning movement from dance, learning power and how things function helped me with photography. So the thing I didn't mention is that throughout my whole journey, I always had like a little point and shoot somewhere. And, I got to talk to DPs and kind of learn the trade. And one of my best friends out here, his name is Bazil. He's a fashion photographer, worked on a bunch of stuff. And he showed me
Bazil.
Yeah. He's like one of my best friends. And he was like, I've always hung out with him. He's like, Lynwood, you got to learn to do this. Take your camera, do X, Y, and Z. And I show some stuff, and he loved it. And he kind of made me pick up the camera and say, why don't you take this thing a little more serious? Why don't you do it? So, how as I mentioned earlier that time is very important, and I'm really focused on time.
Right.
So there's a point where, remember, I mentioned that I was selfish and trying to, keep everything close to my chest, and it was all me. In 1997, my dad, we used to go on this fishing and camping trip every year. My entire life, we'll just go somewhere every year, just me and my brothers. So in 97, 98, I think it was 97, my dad calls me up and he's like, hey, don't forget, next weekend is our big trip. Did you buy your ticket yet? And I'm like, oh, no, son, something came up. Can you switch it to the following weekend? My dad, being who he is, he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I will just come up to Canada the following week and see us all, but we're doing this camping trip this weekend.
Right.
So at the time, one of my brothers was 25, and my dad was remarried a couple times, and he had another son, and he was 13. So it was my dad, my two brothers, and one of their friends. They go on this camping trip, and they're having a great time. And my brother's old enough to drink. Him and his friends were drinking. My dad falls asleep at the campsite, probably about 11, 12 o'clock at night, whatever it was. And for whatever reason, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the RCMP comes up and shines a light into the tent. And he says, do you drive a gray 4Runner? And he said, yeah.
Your father?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Both my brothers, for some stupid reason, decided to hop in the car and flip the car.
Drunk.
And everybody died. And for the longest time, I said to myself that if I was there that weekend, I would have said, you guys aren't going anywhere. I know that deep in my heart, that's what would happen. But because I was so focused on what Lynwood wanted,
That's not your fault. You can't.
Definitely not. But
no,
that's not.
That's,
I mean,
but at that time, that's what I thought.
No, and people think that, but that's not your fault. That's something that completely out of control. Shoot, if you would have gone, you might have been in the car with him.
Or you could have been with your father sleeping and you wouldn't have found out until that moment.
That's true. But here's the thing, you know, when I
I'm sorry about
it happens. I get emotional sometimes.
No, I'm sorry that you.
No, it's cool. It's
That's
cool. I was gonna lace over it, but I'm like, the thing that me growing up with my mom drinking so much and people smoking, my dad loved to smoke blunts. I stayed away from it. I was like, nah, because I saw what it did to my mom, and we had this weird relationship where, because of how I was treated, I kind of backed away from my mom. But when my dad called me at whatever 3 or 4 in the morning at my time, I had to call my mom. He's like, I'm not talking to your mom. I don't care what goes on. I had to call my mom and tell her what happened.
It was that bad. He didn't want to speak to her because they weren't talking.
They hated each. When I say hated, I mean hated each other.
Wow, I can't imagine a hate like that.
And because I'm so cerebral, you know, I videotaped myself calling my mom to tell her what happened because I needed to feel something. Every once in a while I watch the video because it's a piece that makes me feel alive. It sounds morbid, it sounds weird, but that's the only thing that kind of said, you know what? Don't be selfish. If you say you're going to be somewhere, be somewhere. If you say you're going to be on time, be on time. If you don't want to do something, say you don't want to do it. So I tell my mom, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. Fast forward 99. Now it's 2 years later after my brothers pass away. My mom and I talk maybe once every 3 months or whatever. I'm getting my hair cut. Oh, sorry. Let me back it up. 2 years later, my birthday comes up, September 2nd. I get a letter. I open up the letter. My mom gave me the most amazing letter basically saying, I'm sorry for everything that I've ever done. Let's get closer. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm still in my head. I'll go, you know what? I'll get back to her. 3 weeks later, I'm getting my hair cut and I get a call from my aunt that my mom committed suicide. And I say to myself, I haven't learned a damn thing. It was still me. Somebody reached out to you to say, I apologize, I'm sorry, and I'm too into myself to say, I'll get to her next time. I'll call her next month.
How long before do you not talk to her for? Or do you have a tight relationship with her?
Like I said, after my brothers died, I talked to her every 3 months or so.
But before
all that, it was really, hey, you know what? I'm in Toronto or I'm in Vancouver. Come see a show.
Whenever you were in town.
Whenever I was in town, it wasn't, hey, you know, I get to eat. Like
so it was.
We were estranged. So you know, we didn't talk much because I was still resentful. I mean, on this podcast, I left stuff out, but you know, I used to get beatings for no reason, beatings for being late. I didn't get it. I didn't understand. So that was part of my, let me get out of here phase. If I can run, if I can dance, anything I can do to get out of here, I'm doing it. So that's my backstory as to
who you are,
who I am.
And how'd you get here?
Can I trust this person? Am I on? Am I fake? Am I real? Am I, you know? But now I realized every single thing that I experienced in my life has really made me a better person now. After I connect all the dots. Like when I say I'm going to call somebody, I'm calling somebody.
Right.
So now
You're committed.
I'm committed.
If you lost too many people for not committing.
Yeah. That's why when my kids live next door, I can see my kids every single day. They come jump on a trampoline and they're like, "Hey, Dad, can we come over?" I'm like, "Dude, why are you asking? Open the door. Come on in."
I feel like you accused yourself in this story a couple of times of selfish or into your what you wanted or what you needed or whatever.
Right.
And the beginning of this episode, your lifestyle right now doesn't reflect that at all. You go through hell. I mean, and it's not hell, but you go through complications of living with your ex-wife and your current just so your kids have a better life. So that doesn't,
Yeah, but that's not hell. I mean, he made it work.
I know, but there's definitely more complications. You could have said, "Just fuck it, and I'll do whatever I want.
Right,
more convenient for me or whatever."
But that's the lesson that I learned because of all the tragic BS that went on. That said, okay, I'm not going to get married 3 or 4 times. I'm not going to have my oldest son. Yes, he lived in Canada. He came. We made that relationship work. Back and forth every 2 or 3 months. We talked all the time. He was either in LA or I go to Canada or whatever. So he spent summers. That relationship I needed to keep and be strong. To this day, he's now 27. I'm a grandfather now. Him and his wife. He is an amazing father. And I hope that part of that was for what I taught him. It's the lessons that you learn from years ago that make you who you become now. So now I'm really focused. So I work for a company out of Phoenix, Arizona called Altus, and I do a lot of photography for all the Olympic athletes and stuff that they train. So I deal with their social media and all that, and those are relationships from friends. One of my best friends, Stu McMillan, who is one of the most talented strength coaches and track and field coaches in the world. He's been, he's coached over 100 Olympic athletes,
That's huge.
So, yeah.
No, your journey, I mean, you've dealt with a lot of grief, but your journey still continues.
And
it's opened up doorways. You've done many more things. What other movies have you done that you've done voiceovers, you've done acting? Let's dive into that.
So now we dive into the acting.
Yeah, because you're human.
My ex-wife is a vice president of post-production for Disney feature animation. I have a lady named Terry Douglas who owns a company called Loop Troop. So from 2006 through 2020, I've been doing looping and stuff like that for animated features. So I've done Big Hero 6, Moana, both Frozen, Zootopia, Step Up 2, what else? Solo, Star Wars.
That's exciting. That's cool.
So yeah, I've probably done 20 films.
That's amazing.
And what do you do? Voiceovers there? Or?
A lot of voiceover stuff. So looping, what happens is you do you know much about looping?
No idea.
No.
So say you're watching Chicago Fire, and you see the 2 main actors here, and they walk inside the fire station, but you see other people that are there, and they're talking, and they're having these conversations. Well, they bring loopers in to do those voices for that. So it's like, we've got a 1014 coming in through or well, Dr. So-and-so, please come to emergency, please. So I do a lot of that stuff for these films.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
So
that's very cool. Did you have to do any training to do it, or it was just natural?
Well, because, being an entertainer, you kind of have to learn to improv a bit. And now I'm okay. Let me tell you something. I'm okay. But some of the people that I work with do this 5, 6, 7 days a week, and they're on everything, and they're so talented in it. I get to learn from them because they're really on it. I mean, if it's like
fast paced, they're on top of it.
If it's medical jargon, usually they'll say, "Hey, Lynwood, we're doing this show, and it's pertaining to X, Y, and Z." So you look up, medical jargon or police dialogue or whatever, and you're like, "Okay, learning these. All right, what words? Okay, so and so's coming to this shop. All right, here we go. We need this, this, and this." So that's kind of what I do as my side passion project, which I love. So I probably do a couple films a year, which is
That's
that's
a
right.
dream.
Which is great. You know,
Yeah,
so
right.
every once in a while you go to your mailbox, you're like, oh, residual check. Oh, I forgot I did this.
I was just gonna ask: is it usually residuals, or is it
Yeah.
sometimes flat? Or
So no, what happens is they pay you whatever your day rate is.
right?
And then after the film comes out or the TV show comes out, there's residuals for whatever, if it plays on a plane, if it's on Netflix, if it's, DVDs. So
Right,
so it's good.
iTunes.
And you've
whatever.
done
Yeah.
basically every of the late Disney movies.
I
so
would say
that would-
90% of them.
So you're
Nothing.
set for the next 40 years.
I don't know about that, but it's been such a blessing. It's just having those opportunities.
What part did you do on Frozen?
Wow. The first Frozen, I think it was some of the guards that come in when Sven is being kicked out of the escaping the prison. Just lots of grunts and running and things
Yeah.
like that. So you're kind of
So like
all
all
over.
kind of sound effects, and
Yeah,
it's
so
not
big-
necessarily just voice. I mean, everything you do with your
Sound
voice,
effects, running. Yeah.
right?
So what happens is you're basically anything that's in the film that isn't the main characters, the loopers do.
That's amazing. I never thought about that.
So that's it. So
They
anytime you're
fulfill.
watching TV and you see something and you're going,
And you hear a voice that you don't see who's saying
you're
it.
like whatever. Or you see because they'll show somebody just moving their mouths and like, what does that look like he's saying? It looks like he's saying, I've got that. Come over here. So that's a lot of the stuff that I end up doing, which is fun.
And they're called loopers.
Loopers, yeah.
Loopers.
That's
Yeah,
right.
or they'll say additional voices. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
Which means you're anywhere in the movie.
Well, let me know if they need a Spanish speaker.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that a lot of these actors that do looping, they'll say, I need somebody who speaks English and Japanese and Spanish and whatever.
Speak a lot of languages.
I don't. That's why sometimes it's like she'll call me up. It's like, Lynwood, I can do this accent, but I can't. I don't speak Spanish or whatever. So anyway,
Yeah,
that's kind of
That's right.
they're always going to need a way of fulfilling
yeah.
it.
So now we're talking about connections and all that. So the group I used to be with, DC Talk, they're now soloists. So Toby Mac is still around he's huge. Michael Tate is in a band called the Newsboys. Kevin Smith is a soloist, and we are still friends to this day. And it was a few years, like anytime they were in town, we talk and kind of do the thing. But it's probably been the last 4 years that we've been closer. So they're in town, I shoot them there. If there's, Toby gave me the opportunity a year ago to shoot one of his shows, and that's kind of the music aspect of what I do.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the future looking like for Lynwood? What are the goals? Where are you at in 5 years, 10 years from now?
Oh, where am I in 5-10 years from now?
Yeah. What are you planning to do and accomplish?
I think the ultimate goal for me is to be able to shoot more Nike stuff, some dance. I have a dance project that I want to do and shoot some choreographers and things like that in their element, and try to bring what they do and see dancers in places you're not supposed to see dancers.
Right.
Yeah.
So when did you start writing out of all, in what part of all this story did you start writing and introducing motorcycles into your life?
So I got my first motorcycle when I was 19. It was a GSXR. Terrible. I had it for about 6 months, and
1,000.
yes,
Yeah.
for the first bike.
Nice.
I'm like, and because I said 6 months, it's like you're in Canada, so you ride and it's winter,
You don't.
and then you don't. So I realized that I'm never going to ride as much as I need to because I'm always in and out of town. So I sold that, and then when I moved to Los Angeles, I had a little tiny, I think it was like a 500. I can't remember what it was, just to get me back and forth in town. And then I bought a Suzuki 800. It was the fake Harley looking one.
Yeah.
Right.
Boulevard.
Boulevard. Yes, exactly. I had that for about
Everything that looks chrome is plastic.
exactly. That's exactly what I had. And then I had that for probably 5 or 6 years. Then 2008 is when I bought the V-Rod.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, at the time, it was like black and orange. And
2008. So that was okay. That's the Night Rod special.
yes, the Night Rod special, and it was black and orange, and I didn't like that. And I threw another friend hooked me up with Scratch, and I said, I want to do this, and can you paint it this way? He's like, here, I'll add some stuff to it. It's great. Then I was rolling sands. I was kind of geeking out on some of his wheels and all that, so I totally kitted it out and rode it forever. And then 2018, I went and bought the bagger, and taking photos of people riding motorcycles, some guys that I met, and meeting you guys, which was amazing. I think, if I'm correct, we met on one of the Stronghold rides, I think.
Oh, maybe I was there. I don't think I was riding that day. I think I just went there to take pictures for some reason. I think we were just going to breakfast with Cassidy, my wife, and Jack, and I think I just passed by. And I always carry my camera usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a year and a half ago. I think it's probably been a year and a half, maybe 2 years that I started riding. 2 years ago when I did my first ride with you guys. But I happened to go over to Butterscotch, and I was buying some stuff, and then I see this long-haired kind of cool hipster kind of dude. And I'm like, oh, this guy has an amazing look. And we started talking for a second, and I remember him buying some white leather gloves. And then about a week or so later, my girlfriend and I are up at Angeles Crest, and I saw your whole crew, and then I saw the gloves. I'm like, hey, weren't you just at Stronghold or whatever? And he's like, yeah. And then I met all you guys, and I think I took some photos.
Who was wearing the gloves? You were wearing the gloves?
No, Colin.
Colin. I was
Colin
gonna say,
was.
that sounds, white gloves sounds like Colin.
I don't even wear gloves.
Shout out to Colin.
So I took some photos with you guys, and then you guys were riding, and then were you with us at the time? There was like some big accident or something.
Yeah,
It was
with a helicopter.
The big helicopter.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. Huge
That was
helicopter. And we're all watching because they stopped us, and I took a couple photos of you guys and kept on, and we kept in touch. And I've probably done half a dozen rides or something with you guys.
And then I showed up at your house.
Yes. Which I've got to say was
Wait, his house or the ex-wife's house?
my house.
I didn't ask questions.
Whose house is who?
This is one of the kindest brothers I've ever met in my life.
Too
man.
kind.
I got online and I saw that you guys did the mask.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, dude, I need this mask. Boom, 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 boom. Next thing, he was like, oh, Lynwood, send me your address. I'm like, okay.
I know. I think I texted you saying, "Are you home?"
Yeah, are you home?
Yeah, because I had in the order. I had the
order.
address.
That's right. You did have the address.
Yeah, he delivered.
And I'm like, the hell? Yeah, I'm home. And I walk outside and he's there. And I'm going, I know this guy lives in Culver City. I'm in Burbank. I'm like, that is a brother who has got the kindest heart. And there's not many people that go out and do stuff like that.
I have this thing that the first day that we release a product, every order that we get that day, I deliver everything around the city.
Did you hear that? Miami, New York,
No, fuck
Texas,
that.
Brazil.
Exactly. I mean, if it's Brazil, maybe I have to.
Yeah, or South America. No, that he's done that with all his products, and it's created so much value. And I guess that's why, on top of that, it's a cool product. He creates bigger value to it. I wish more companies would do the same.
Yeah, I mean that's how you get true customer service and true people that really love your product and that will continue buying stuff.
But how much does he love his product that he wants to deliver it and show it to people?
Oh, exactly.
That's even more impressive.
Yeah, very, very.
I mean, plus everything we're discussing and talking about, but that's outstanding.
Yeah, it's
what got you into writing originally? Just quick on that, because I don't think I got that.
When I was
any influence growing up, dirt bikes.
Here's the influence. It's like I used to go to all those Supercross shows and all that, but I had Evel Knievel was like my hero. I was like, I've always wanted to. I'm like, I love the Evel Knievel. It's like I used to go to shows, and in Canada they had these drag race shows, where they race cars and stuff like that.
Right.
And Evel would come out and jump vans and all this stuff, and I'm going, that is cool. I would love to ride a motorcycle, and I've always wanted one. And all my friends, they lived on farms and all this stuff like that, and they used to have dirt bikes, and it's just something I've always wanted. And I said, when I can afford it, I'm going to buy what I want. And
that's.
I have a question for you because recently I had a discussion with my 3-year-old about this. So I'm guessing you've seen the movie Toy Story 4.
Yes.
Right. So this character that is Yes I Canada, which is boom, something kaboom or something like that,
okay.
right? Is this guy based on Evel Knievel, just in Canadian version, or there's actually an Evel Knievel Canadian that this character is based on?
That I don't know, but the real Evel Knievel wasn't a Canadian one.
No, right.
No,
right.
I know that, but
Yeah.
my kid is like, no, that's not Duke Kaboom, because Duke Kaboom is Canadian, and I'm like, no, bro, I'm just based on this guy. Is just dressed as a
Right.
Canadian, and I didn't know, but being Canadian probably knew.
No,
if there
I don't
was a
know
guy
in
like
this-
that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have to do more research than guess.
Yeah.
Lynwood, is
Yes.
there one last thing you want to tell the listeners of everything that's happened in your life experience? What would be your message and advice to people out there, younger people and to people your age and older?
I think that life has a lot of opportunities, and you got to not be afraid to sit here and take them. Now, I don't mean lie to get into it or anything like that, but once the opportunity is there, do whatever you can. Be absolutely honest. If you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm not sure if I could do X, Y, and Z because my background is something different, but you need to go out there and say, look, give me the shot. I'm going to do everything I can to give you the vision that you want. And I think that most people that hear that will accept it instead of being hustled. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't come in with arrogance. You got to come in humble and willing to learn. If you don't know something, ask somebody. Build a community of people that can help you out. Like, I know I'm not a big Photoshop guy, but I know somebody, if I'm stuck, I can go, hey, can you help me out with this? It's all about building your network. So find your network, be honest, be on time, be the hardest worker, if you're like, one of my favorite sayings is like, if you're the smartest person in a room, find another room to be in.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And I like what you said also. Ask for help, ask for questions. I went to Pepperdine, and that was one of the first things I learned on the first weekend. People want to help people, but if you don't ask for that help, you're not getting help.
Right.
Anyways, Lynwood, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
brother.
having you on.
Fist bump.
We'll get you on again, another fist bump. And until next time.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it.
And that's it for this episode. Thank you so very much for listening. If you liked it, please make sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, on everywhere. Wherever you're listening to this, there's a subscribe button. Please click on it. It helps the podcast. It helps the guest. It helps all of us. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at Ride Boundless to see amazing pictures and contents and videos of the people we are speaking to. Until then, see you next week. Ride safe, ride hard, ride boundless.